Good day, everyone. I'm Xanda Hilger, and I coordinate the North Central Texas Caregiver Teleconnection through the Dallas Area Agency on Aging and the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging. Our topic today is nutrition. Nutrition for older adults, but nutrition for Americans. We know that older adults have special nutritional needs. Many of you
Many
as
caregivers.
caregivers may be maybe older yourself or you're middle aged, but what we have to hear today is relevant to all of us. We're very fortunate to have as our speaker today. Oh, and by the way, the chat, I'll be monitoring the chat, but unless there's something that really needs to be addressed right away, probably won't interrupt our speaker until question and answers at the end. But we will get to that. We're privileged today to have Meridan Zerner. She has a string MS, RDN, CSSD, LD. She's an award-winning registered dietitian nutritionist with 30 plus experience in the field of health and wellness. The last 22 years she has spent at the Cooper Clinic in Dallas, Texas, where she not only works with patients, but she shares her passion for nutrition through media segments and lectures across the country. She received a Bachelor of Science from Sycamore University and Master of Nutritional Science with an emphasis in health promotion from the University of Oklahoma. She is a certified specialist in sports dietetics and specializes in weight management and exercise and sports nutrition. She also shares her expertise in preventive and cardiovascular health and nutrition throughout the life cycle. Meridan is a certified health and wellness coach and uses behavioral change skills to help support long term lifestyle changes in her patients. You can find her contributing to multiple entities across the Cooper campus. She is an adjunct instructor at the Cooper Institute, lead facilitator for Cooper Wellness Strategies, and a group exercise instructor and lecturer at Cooper Fitness Center. Her wellness philosophy is to do the best you can with what you have where you are. And Meriden, when I saw your picture, I thought, how could this woman who looks like she's barely out of college have all these credentials? Well, you live a very healthy lifestyle, apparently. Thank you again
Well,
for joining us.
yes, my pleasure. And my alarm just went off to remind me, like, hey, don't forget you've got this wonderful event. Let me snooze it. Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a kind introduction. Yeah, I don't know how 30 years has passed in this field, but I have found my passion, and I feel very privileged and fortunate um, to be able to spend, gosh, the last several decades here at the Cooper Clinic, the Cooper campus. By the way, tomorrow, if you guys don't have anything else to do, I'm going to be on Fox TV at the 10 a.m. show talking about caffeine comparisons. And next week is Good Morning Texas on Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday. And we're going to be talking about it's National Confectionery Month. And
Oh
so
my.
we're right, we're talking about believe it or not, healthier candy or how to manage the sweet tooth a little bit better. So join in. I'd love to connect and make new friends in that way. So I have for you today this recipe for healthy aging. And when you think about a recipe, of course, there's lots of different ingredients. And I don't know about you, but I don't need a whole lot of extra jalapenos in my recipe because I don't like super spicy stuff. So my version of a particular recipe may be a little more mild. You may need to add in a few bits and pieces, less salt, maybe more basil. I don't know, but some of the basic elements in this recipe for healthy aging will be true for all of us as human beings. And so some of the information here is going to be relevant for somebody who's 20, 30, 50, 80, because we are all aging. And if we can appreciate what is going well and continue to protect and defend labs, cognitive sharpness, energy, manage inflammation. We'll talk about that. This lends itself to a greater quantity and quality of life. And that's really what Cooper Clinic is all about. Our mission, our philosophy is to help people in a preventive wellness, preventive medicine fashion to achieve this greater quantity and quality of life. So we're living longer and we want it to be as functional and ideally as happy as possible to squeeze the most out of what life has to offer, and that you've got the kind of energy where you can give back in sort of greater works, whether it's through your children, grandchildren, other sort of meaningful roles that we have in our lives. I'm going to come at this topic also utilizing the wellness wheel in addition to this idea of a healthy recipe. We'll talk today about some of the latest, greatest headlines, things that always flag that I'm intrigued by, that I want to make sure you're aware of. We'll talk about the foods, the herbs, some of the spices that are, I hope, easy add-ins versus taking things out. I like the idea of abundance, like what can we add in that would be supportive, that would prevent or buffer inflammation. We call it inflammaging. Now, and I say we, I didn't make up that term. I think it's pretty fabulous. But we will all experience a certain amount of inflammation as we age, whether it manifests in the artery as heart disease, whether it manifests in the joint as arthritis, in our brain cells as cognitive decline. So when we talk about buffering inflammation, we are helping our body age well or better. And then we'll talk about the hot diets, the best new diets for 2025. This is my best favorite definition of wellness, and appreciate that it's the quality or state of being healthy in mind and body, especially, this is the best part, as the result of a deliberate act. Wellness is an action. And so my hope is you'll be listening for some of these ideas, tips, strategies, anything that really resonates for you, where you say, I'm going to act on that. I'm going to track my fiber. I'm going to, explore this turmeric that she talked about, that there'll be an action that comes from our time together. And it might even be that your action is that you email me with more questions, and I will give you the ability, my email and whatnot at the end of the session. And that is a genuine offer. So I may not know the answer, but I will certainly do the deep dive and then maybe get you connected with someone who does. All right. This is that wellness wheel I spoke to you about. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that there are so many aspects of our well-being that influence the other. So wellness is multidimensional, multifactorial. We may be crushing it and doing so well in the spiritual arm, and maybe we're doing well in the financial arm. Maybe we've got good, strong social connections. These things influence our sense of wellness, peace of mind, and that translates into the wellness of our body, tip to toe. Maybe we need to look at these little areas and think, oh yeah, that one's a little off. Maybe my physical well-being right now is not where I'd like it to be or where it used to be. So this is just an invitation to pause and think about how am I doing in these areas? And is there one or two where I want to prioritize the area? And then what particular habits or changes would I want to put in play to be able to move forward? I highlighted the social and emotional wellness because that will be a piece of what we talk about today. And especially on the heels of a book club that I did for our entire campus. And I'll share that book with you in a minute. But the bottom line that came from the longest running study on human health and happiness out of Harvard was that those who lived the longest and would describe their lives as robust and satisfying and that they were happy had the strongest social relationships. And so as we think about like our day to day, and I know many of you are caregivers and that can be inherently limiting, and you taking care of you and finding even maybe small ways like this where we can see others, we can have conversations. I'll take the phone call, maybe it is a text outreach just to be able to stay connected, but this radically contributes to your health and well-being. Even our last Surgeon General said, hey, isolation is really becoming an epidemic as it relates to our health. We learned that in COVID as well. that loneliness can be devastating from a brain and body standpoint. So we will talk quite a bit about the emotional and social well-being, but of course, my sweet spot as a dietitian working in a fitness and health campus, on a fitness and health campus, would be the physical well-being. When you look at the wheel, if you do notice in our time together that there is an area that you feel unfulfilled in, then I'm just going to have you make a mental note. I use sticky notes all the time and put it somewhere where it'll be top of mind and cue you to continue to explore, to get curious, to make change in that area. My physical part of the wellness wheel, if we break it out even a little bit further, the recipe for healthy aging that I'd want you to appreciate, and I'm not a great artist, but I tried to make these circles equal because they're equally weighted, they're equally important. You'd think I would say, oh, nutrition's where it's at, but I'd be remiss because nutrition influences exercise and repair. Well, we have to have deep sleep to do that repair. If we're highly stressed, it influences our hunger hormones, and around we go. So trying to find ways to move forward this progress, not perfection idea, these little bite-sized chunks in these areas, because the nutrition change will influence the movement change. The movement change will influence the depth of your sleep and so on. And then this is complex, right? The human body, biochemistry, it's complex. And so we need to talk about supportive supplementation. Things change as we age. We need more of some things, less of some things. Hydration. It's hot out there today. It is humid. Are we well hydrated, which can affect digestion, absorption, weight, clarity of thought. So sometimes that's where we need to move forward. And then I could fill this entire screen with bubbles when we think about other areas of opportunity for healthy aging. The physical dimensions of wellness will embrace hopefully absence of disease or management of disease, enhanced nutrition, movement or activity, and maybe again today, just a chance to pause and assess your physical quality of life. And my hope is first, we look through the lens of what is going well. The University of Pennsylvania has a degree that we can get in positive psychology, really encouraging us to think about, and it's hard, what is okay today? And that could look 1,000 different ways. And so I would love for you to lead with that. And then we would look at, okay, are there other things that we can work on when we think about activity, mobility, not sitting, etc. When we can get physical, and that can look different ways for people. It could be chair yoga. It could be light stretching. It could be a 10-minute walk. Studies show that cognitive decline is almost twice as common among adults who are inactive versus those who are active. So what is possible in the world of maintaining some kind of movement? And the big deal is truly just not sitting. Cool study, February 2025, published in Nature Medicine, looking at 500,000 participants, the UK Biobank. I think it's important to really look at where are you getting your information from. We want meaningful research that's been vetted. 25 lifestyle and environmental factors, 23 of which were modifiable, and physical activity being among them, really demonstrating that our lifestyle is likely 10 times more important in explaining ill health, mortality than our genetic predisposition for major diseases. There are 23 modifiable factors. Some of them we'll focus on today. Of course, exercise or movement being one of them. We know it helps with heart health, managing weight, energy, confidence, decreasing stress. We know that movement influences mood. It influences serotonin transmitters, those feel-good, happy chemistry in our gut primarily. So in any way, can you increase your daily activity, your movement? And it might just be not sitting. So this British Journal of Sports Medicine looked at, hey, 20 minutes of exercise offsetting or trying to offset sitting all day. but that people who spent 12 hours sitting each day were 38% more likely to die harsh versus the people who only sat for 8 hours. So honestly, my encouragement right now might even be like I'm sitting in my twirly chair just because my camera's aligned, but you guys could stand up. You might just sit forward on the edge of your chair, twirl an ankle, get some ankle mobility. You might create a C shape with your spine, kind of pull your rib cage down toward your hip bones to get a nice low back stretch. When we do even this, opening up chest and shoulders, that inspires, no pun intended, a deep breath. We get enhanced blood flow even to the areas that we're stretching, and that helps us tip to toe, lowering stress response on the other side, managing blood pressure. So there can be a simplicity here. Not saying you have to go run a marathon. In fact, I don't even recommend that. I say be intentional, be in 10 minutes of movement where we can increase by 10 minutes. And by the way, fine to start with 2 minutes, work your way up to 5, work your way up to 10. Maybe there's 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. But there's power in that, hey, that's 100 calories burned. That's 10 pounds lost in a year. We could probably get 5, maybe 6, 7 resistance exercises done in 10 minutes for bone strength, muscle strength, and capacity. But additionally, we might get a better night of sleep and lower the stress response with even those 10 minutes. I used another 10 here. This was a June 2022 study because this I think is easier-ish to try, but it matters. Balance challenge. So when people were not able to stand on one leg for 10 seconds in middle and later in life, they had double the risk of premature death. Could you stand on one foot with your hand on the counter and brush your teeth? Because theoretically, we're doing this for 2 minutes. So right foot for a minute, left foot for a minute, maybe train balance. And sometimes I'll even have people be on the edge of their chair, using their handles on the chair, put all their weight into their right foot and just see if they can do a little bit of a body lift with the right side. That requires stability. What happens when we don't have the strength around the ankle, the knee joint, the hip, in particular, the big muscles that support those joints? We fall. We're at greater fracture risk because of the fall. So, hey, what if a one thing today was even how can I incorporate a little more balance challenge in my day? It's recommended over age 65 anyway, as it relates to keeping you healthy and strong. But we're a preventive medicine facility. So why would I wait to 65 to start doing balance training? I want people to do it starting at age 20, 40, you name it. And by the way, if you're over 65, we can increase muscle and strength. We can improve balance even now, really at any age, they've been able to show that. So what is possible? I love that question. I challenge my kids with that all the time, enough that they eye roll me. Okay, mom, here we go. So we may have physical stressors, we may have injuries. There may be folks who are caregivers where you really can't leave the house because that's a safety concern. So I'm going to ask what is possible. I respect all of that, and I can't imagine all that you all are doing. I would wonder, like, is there a way? I mean, is there a way, right? Can somebody come in for those 10 minutes in the morning? We can even get a little bit of sun on our face, spend a little time in nature. They call it forest bathing in Japan, but even getting outside is very grounding. And you'll see the science here, the subjective well-being, decreasing mental stress, getting some direct sunlight on your face that also sets your circadian rhythm. There's science to that as well. So the not sitting, the balance challenge, is there any way to get outside? I'm wondering what's possible. A question for you, and I know we can't, have a direct line of communication, but when does most of our muscular repair take place? Where we want this muscular repair, because this is how we're going to prevent injury, maintain mobility, motion, strength. Well, it takes place when you sleep. And yes, I'm pandering. I have a cute little puppy right there. I'm a big, huge dog lover. I have 2 rescue dogs, and I gotta tell you, looking at puppies just makes me happy. So I'm sharing my happy place. Um, Repair takes place when you sleep. Muscular repair, cellular repair, but it's the depth of sleep also that we want to factor in. Now, when people restrict sleep, intentionally or otherwise, and maybe they're only getting 4 to 5 hours, we see a decline in glucose tolerance, right? That becomes insulin sensitivity, which becomes prediabetes, perhaps diabetes. We see decreased muscle glucose uptake into the cell. We see increased hepatic glucose output and pancreatic B cell function. Um, we see increased cortisol levels. That's our stress hormone. And ideally, if you remember, hey, less than 7 hours is considered chronic sleep deprivation. Maybe this is the one thing that needs a little bit of TLC, something to shine the light on. Be like, how can we get in bed 15 minutes earlier? How can we increase the depth of your sleep? Do we need to get a sleep study? Do you notice that people are sleeping for 7 hours, but they're still exhausted? I would prioritize that even before, increasing fiber, which we're going to talk about too, but huge. So here you are, 18 to 25 at 7 to 9 hours of sleep is the sweet spot. And then when you all achieve the 26 to 64 years, 7 to 9 hours. And at 65 plus, 7 to 8 hours is the recommendation. A question for our kids and our grandkids. Are our school age kids getting 9 to 11 hours? Are our teenagers getting 8 to 10? And we're seeing significant health ramifications. And again, multifactorial, it's rarely one thing, but this can be a piece of the wellness recipe, the healthy aging recipe, that literally affects everything else. It's kind of like the power on switch, and then you adjust volume and bass and treble, but this is the on switch. So maybe this is a one thing to focus on. We know it affects weight and metabolic syndrome. We know that short amounts of sleep or not enough sleep is associated with reduced levels of leptin. And that's your fullness hormone. That cues your brain to be like, hey, we're good, we're full. We see increased ghrelin levels. That's your hunger hormone. And when we're under stress or duress, or we are sleep deprived, your ghrelin is elevated by about 25%. So some people say, oh my gosh, I have no willpower. Well, I actually would counter that with it's also substantial chemistry. That's not a fair fight. If you're tired and you have 25% increased hunger hormone because of that, it would be very difficult to resist higher fat, higher carbohydrate foods because your body's trying to help you survive. It's trying to listen to the cue. There's a lot of chemistry in here where if we know a little bit more about it, hopefully there's A, less self-judgment, and B, greater understanding for strategic planning. Another tool in the toolbox could be this idea of waist to hip ratio. And, we're lucky here at the Cooper Clinic because we can do DEXA scanning that tells me all about your muscle and your bone and your water content and your body fat. We have bioimpedance method. But if we're at home and we're just trying to assess, hey, how am I doing? And if I'm trying to make health and wellness change to my recipe, like I want to be able to track it. I want a specific and measurable tracking tool. That measuring tape might be an opportunity. A high waist to hip ratio may negatively affect about 25% of the white matter as it tracks in your brain. So we just make this connection between higher abdominal fat in midlife and worsening cognitive function. So we just want to know, where are we beginning? Where do we want to go? How are we feeling? How could something like this fit into your wellness recipe? We also know that people who had greater amounts of visceral abdominal fat had less brain tissue, particularly the brain regions that are involved in thinking and memory. There's lots of ways to assess this. This is, simply one of them. That's obviously a conversation with your doctors and your specialists and things like that. But I want you taking care of you and connecting the dot where when I can move, if I'm able to make healthier food choices that positively influences the waistline, we're going to get some of that brain benefit as well, because this is one integrated circuit. This brain body connection is a miraculous thing. I promised some of those like hot topics, the headlines and whatnot. And this is one I was pretty excited about. It was in Nature Journal 2025, looking at, hey, we know that dementia affects a lot of people. Numbers are projected to triple over the next 25 years. But if people got the shingles vaccine, it could reduce the risk of dementia by 20%. Hopefully you're thinking about that anyway, because shingles is very painful. I asked our physicians, because I said, well, what if somebody already had, shingles? Should they still get the vaccine to be able to get this benefit? Their answer was yes. Of course, you need to make that decision for you with your practitioner. But I just wanted to share that. So either feel good about your shingles vaccine, or maybe ask some more questions, get curious, and have that conversation the next time you're in with your practitioner. The American Association of Retired People, the AARP, my father-in-law, who's a jokester, he has passed, amazing man, but he signed me up for AARP on my 35th birthday. Anyway, so I started getting all these catalogs and magazines and newsletters that were like, as we age and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh. But you know what? They were really informative and really interesting. And there's a lot of great research and information sharing that takes place here. They've got 6 pillars that I would encourage you to go back to, stayingsharp.aarp.org, based on scientific research, helping with the breakout of these ingredients, possible ingredients for your recipe for wellness. Be social, I just mentioned that. Eating well, eating right, doing more brightly colored, high fiber fruits and vegetables, etc. Managing stress. I almost feel it's very easy to say, well, go manage stress. And you all as caregivers understand maybe better than anybody. It's easy to say, and it's very difficult to do. So what might that look like for you? Getting those moments, those 3 deep breaths, a second, just to do something that serves you. Ongoing exercise, restorative sleep, and engaging your brain daily. So I thought it was kind of fun. There was this little cartoon that came with this. Oh, if you got your AARP membership, you'd get a free t-shirt. It's just funny. I mean, I do this now. I walk into the kitchen like, no idea why I'm here. Don't remember, that's why I need my sticky notes. So that's just part of the human experience, but it made me giggle. You have a phenomenal resource right here in this neck of the woods, and you don't even have to live in this area to be able to tap these resources. We have the Center for Brain Health here. And this centerforbrainhealth.org would be a great place to go just to get their free newsletter. They have activities, they have free testing. Most of it's even via the computer. But they know their stuff, and they have a very vibrant year-long bit of programming, and you could dip into as much or as little as you wanted to. So consider this additionally, not only for just challenging the brain and continuing to learn new things, but specific to how do we care for this massive organ that will be integral in just staying sharp and being able to enjoy the back end of our years of our life. Supplementation. This is a lecture entirely in and of itself, and it's very complex. What's out there right now? Well, this is according to consumerlab.com. It's a third-party independent research lab. We frequently go there just to kind of get some help in sussing out, wading through some of the research because it's confusing. Again, you would speak to your practitioner, but there was some updated research on ashwagandha, fish oil supplements, not for everybody, but for some, because it's high in DHA, that it may help reduce cognitive decline. It's helpful in managing triglycerides as well. Cocoa flavonols, everyone gets excited about this one, may improve some short-term aspects of cognition, or see some short-term improvements rather in aspects of cognition. You can't get that through a little piece of chocolate though. So, I mean, enjoy the chocolate, savor the chocolate. That's quality of life. But that's not going to be dense enough in the level of, or high enough in the level of polyphenols to give you this benefit. But you're like, well, maybe I could explore it. There are ways to do it. L-arginine supplementation may slightly improve cognitive function. Um, Again, food for thought. Pretty good study that was even published in the Alzheimer's Association journal on just a daily multivitamin. And it may slow cognitive decline. Certainly, it may fill in a few other gaps if we're not eating, pristinely every day, which very few of us do. B12 definitely helps to slow decline in memory and cognition, but particularly for those who were inadequate, had intake that was low. So if you had adequate B12, more doesn't help. The more is not always better. But to bring somebody out of a deficit was really helpful. Very much the same with vitamin D. But vitamin D, we can check in your bloodstream. Like that's a blood check. And because it's the sunshine vitamin, we don't manufacture it as efficiently through our skin as we age. I want to know what your D level is to start to know how much we need to supplement. Again, a lot of us are low in D, and it is helpful for immune function, and also it's associated with higher risk of autoimmune challenges. So I always want to know, if we can get the D up, in particular for those who may have a family history or who are currently struggling with autoimmune challenges. Couple of new, I don't know, considerations, I guess, studies around the GLP-1 medications. These are the Wegovy's, the Ozempics, the Rybelsuses of the world. These are the weight loss medications, but also used to help with diabetes, right? So they work in lots of different ways in the body, but they're showing, hey, there's these two new studies where we see significantly lower risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease utilizing these medications. Now, is that because everything is being processed more efficiently? Is there a connection between higher glucose levels and insulin resistance and dementias? Perhaps. So again, this is Journal of the American Medical Association, April 2025. There's going to be more to come on this. We can keep our ear to the ground on that. So the aging process, man, it's happening every day. It's happening every hour. Cells are turning over in this very moment. We will see physiological changes. We see challenges with immunity and inflammation. And with that immune system shifting, becoming less efficient, we see inflammaging. And again, mentioned that you'll see it as an inflammatory response either in the cell, in the joint, and the artery. And this low grade kind of chronic inflammatory response really can accelerate aging, leading to functional decline. So the conversation is, okay, what can we do in our day to day that might help to manage inflammation? Some of inflammation management actually occurs that's my attempt at a little visual of your GI system in the gut. So we have all this amazing healthy bacteria and some not so healthy bacteria that help us process, absorb, synthesize, or participate in our immune system. This is something that we can better manage through, wait for it, my favorite part, food. We can communicate to the gut communicates to the brain, this gut-brain axis, and really support the system with higher probiotic-rich foods. We'll talk about that. And we can feed those healthy bacteria that are in there fighting the good fight, healthy fiber. When we have highly processed foods, it's a lot of what America is eating, right? It's whatever it is, chips and soda and things like that. We don't feed the healthy good guys, the healthy bacteria. We feed the bad ones. And so we have this dysbiosis. Well, that enhances inflammation. That enhances cognitive impairment. That actually drives the sensation of anxiety. So there's a mood component here too. Fiber is your friend. It is the your flora's friend, the healthy bacteria, the microbiome in your small and large intestine. So here you go. Ladies, 21 to 25 grams is a sweet spot. Gentlemen, 30 to 38 grams is your sweet spot. How much are you getting in? I don't need you to increase it radically overnight because that can be disastrous and uncomfortable. But I'd love to know where you land to know where we go or could go. What if a one thing was, hey, I'm just going to take a day or two and track my fiber real quick? The average American gets in maybe 11 to 15 grams. There's a lot of room to increase. When you increase soluble fiber and fiber in general, boy, not only do we get greater fullness and satiety, we lower LDL cholesterol, we manage blood glucose, and we're getting in chiefly fiber through fruits and vegetables. Win-win. Then there's all the other health benefits. All of the diets that listed or ranked high, top 10 anyway, in the US News and World Report annual best diets report, were all very high in fiber, very high in phytochemicals, brightly colored, beans, legumes, real food, not man-made food-like substance. Number one this year, again, 5 years running, reigning champion, the Mediterranean diet. So when we can make our diet look a little more Mediterranean, it's really a lifestyle, then we can mark all those boxes. So maybe that's the fun next step from how to refine the diet or get back to that kind of eating pattern. I highlighted for you the Mind diet because that is a fabulous fusion of number one and number two. Number two is the DASH diet, which is for blood pressure, for hypertension, and it stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. They fuse them. We got the Mind diet, which is the Mediterranean and DASH intervention for neurodegenerative delay. We want to protect your cognitive capacity. So it was extraordinarily effective to the tune of reducing symptoms by like 63%. It's a whole food diet. That diet or elements of that diet are found in the blue zones around the globe, these areas where they live the longest with the least incidence of disease. So when we can move toward the Mediterranean diet or use the structure of the Mind diet, there's great little mark the boxes in that one, like have a serving of nuts most days, have a serving of berries most days. They'll encourage you to have 2 cups of leafy greens if possible. And again, progress, not perfection. We're just trying to move toward that. You'll see that in these areas where they eat pretty well, they move. And I want to come back to where we began, though, with that social and emotional well-being. They have strong social connections. They have a strong sense of purpose. They have a strong sense of faith, and those contribute in a very powerful way to their ability to live longer. These centenarians with, again, the least incidence of disease. What can we learn from them? So the social and emotional piece, we spent a decent amount of time on physical. I did want to offer up just a few questions to think about as it relates to this critical pie piece in your wellness recipe. And the one at the bottom, how do you handle change? When we think about social dimensions of wellness, the bottom question here, how often do you feel disconnected or experience loneliness? We know that better social connection positively influences your health. And we know that lacking social connection increases risk of premature death by more than 60%. So what is possible? And if it's that, hey, we got to, call the girlfriend, call the son, reach out to the neighbor. I mean, even this wonderful group right here, there may be ways to connect even outside of our time here just to, I don't know, share the experience because it improves our health. And it's just what it is to be a human being on this planet. They studied it at Harvard. We probably didn't need to study it. It's super intuitive. However, I love data. And Robert Waldinger is the current director at Harvard who did this, again, longest running study on human health and connection. and found that the number one contributor to greater quality of life and people who were living the longest were these higher quality close connections. Didn't mean that they had 20 people, they just needed a couple that they knew they could count on, people who had their back, who would pick up the phone. And it matters, especially when we think about aging and dementia risk and vascular health. So again, more data for you, but anything that we can do to push back against isolation that can be maybe, I don't want to say inherent in all of this caregiving, but makes it very, I think it would make it very challenging, would matter. Nutrient concerns for healthy aging as we are wrapping up here, just to be aware, we've got information based on your age. A lot of times as we age, we need more B12, we need calcium, but calcium's got to be well divided in your day. Like you could have the Greek yogurt and the latte and the cheese stick at the same time and maybe have had 3 servings, but you only get credit for 1. So calcium's got to be well divided for bone health, among other things. It is part of our electrolyte profile for the heart beating. Vitamin D, again, lots of people are low. I'd love to know what your needs are, to know if we needed to supplement and how much. B6 can often be low. We want to think about, are you getting in enough green foods to get the lutein and the zeaxanthin for vision support? I'll take anything green. We used to think it was orange, but there wasn't great science to that. So do eat orange things. Amazing. Have some sweet potato, but it's not going to be as much of an eye support tool as things that are green. For arthritis, osteoarthritis, gout, we want to remember the idea of motion is lotion, lubricating the joint. We want to keep moving as best as we can. We look at buffering inflammation as best as we can. I love a good tart cherry for gout. They've done some studies on that. And hey, it's food as medicine. A little tart cherry has been shown to decrease inflammation in the joint and a tool for gout. So if you're curious about that, that could be something that you email me about later and I'll get you some information on it. If you were undecided and you're like, oh my gosh, there's lots of possibility here, Meridan, you choose for me. If you were going to change one thing that would have the most impact, I'm going to say add more color. And I do have a fun little 30 plants a week checklist. If you're just trying to add variety or you're getting bored with your current intake and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I haven't had Swiss chard in a while. Let me just be reminded. Check, I did it. I'm happy to share that with you, or I can share it with the WellMed group, the WellMed group, and you guys can distribute. There might be an easier way to do that, but please know I'm happy to share that resource with you. This is me. I can be a resource. I'm fun. And there's 8 other dietitians that I work with. And so in terms of different specialty areas and shared resources, you are more than welcome to call me. You can email me. And please know that I'm happy to be a resource for you. And I'm just even more grateful for your time today and your willingness to, spend an hour with me. Thank you.
Meridan, fabulous. Have several questions, but my first question is, are any of the services, knowing there may be people from spread out everywhere, are there any of the services that you or the Cooper Clinic provide that are telehealth that could be done remote?
Yes. And so, just a heads up, anybody in Texas, the state of Texas, we can do telehealth appointments and we do those frequently. So we are absolutely queued up to do HIPAA compliant telehealth appointments. I would want somebody to know that Cooper as an entity, as a campus, is private pay, so we don't take insurance. We can always provide a detailed receipt with an ICD-10 code that people can submit, but I want to be clear about that up front, that it is private pay. We can do consultations for some other states as well, but not all states yet, because only a few states have reciprocal agreements for licensure and whatnot. So it just kind of depends on the state somebody lives in.
Okay. And let me say to those listening, you will receive her slides in a readable PDF format, so that will be available. I had one question. What are the numbers at the bottom of the sleep slide? It went by me before I saw this question.
Go back real quick. Hang on. Bear with me. I'm gonna get to the sleep
And while
slide.
you're looking for that, I did post
Ah,
stayingsharp.aarp.org
good
and
one.
centerforbrainhealth.org. And then I sent you a couple of direct questions, but let's go down to,
Let me see if I can go back and share my screen again because I'm looking at that slide.
and I gather this person is very familiar with Zoom, so I don't think it was a Zoom function.
So can you see that slide again?
Is that it?
Yes,
Oh,
that's it.
Okay, so yeah, so they were giving us ages at the bottom, different age ranges, and it's tiny font. I
yeah,
apologize, but
yeah,
it's from sleepfoundation.org.
gotcha.
It's a phenomenal, if sleep's the issue, they've got some great information there and strategies there.
Great.
But yes, it was just age range at the bottom, and then
It,
we would look
it's
up
the
to figure
five
out
to
where,
six.
what would be our sweet spot for how much sleep would be optimal.
For the older adult, I see the 9 on top of the optimal sleep hour, 7 to 8, but what's 5 to 6 at the bottom of that?
Now,
Outliers.
mhm,
So they're going to say, hey, your sweet spot
Oh,
7 to 8. Some people can get 9 hours and be perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. But occasionally when people sleep too much, we see some health fallout. Same with the 5 to 6. There are some of you who are just perfectly great and fine, and your labs are great, and there's no issues or fatigue, and they can get 6 hours and be crushing life. They're outliers. They're a very small
right.
percentage, but yeah, there's got to be a little grace, a little wiggle room in there for different people, different genetics.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay. Recent studies about ashwagandha and other supplements that we've seen on the news or wherever. Do you have just kind of a wait and see about some of those studies?
We really do because we're more conservative generally as an entity. I
Hmm.
think the I think the bigger question to think about or to ask is how do some of these supplements, because we can get a good brand, right? I mean, we can look at some of the companies. Yes, the FDA does not regulate them, but we've got companies that self-submit. I've got professional athletes where I need to know that the brand that they're using has in it what they say they have in it, all that. Um, so we can feel okay about the branding. Um, Dosing for the individual, we don't have as much information about. And the bigger question is, how is that supplement going to interact with medication?
Hmm.
And we don't have as much information on that as would make me feel more comfortable and confident. And again, I always default to, hey, is that a conversation we can have with the physician? Because if that is their specialty area, they may be able to speak more to it.
Hmm.
Occasionally, I can look at a study where if it is specific to an age range and they're looking at, hey, is there any chance that that interferes with a mood stabilizer? Is there any chance that that would interfere with blood pressure? Because it's ashwagandha, is you can kind of get a relaxation response with that. Would that drop somebody's blood
Hmm.
pressure too low?
Hmm.
That's some of what a dietitian does. We look at the supplement and medication interaction, but those are the questions to ask before ever kind of just, oh, let's see what happens. I'm waiting for more studies on that one.
Okay. How could someone get a consult with a nutritionist, a dietitian that would be covered by insurance?
So, and I thank you. I could have put that on a slide. That would have been helpful for you. Um, there is our organization nationally is Eat Right, one word, eatright.org.
Okay.
And you can go there and you plug in your zip code. And what will populate are the names of dietitians, specialty areas, and if they take insurance and what insurance, right? So all of that is on there. So if you were curious, you will see who takes insurance, and that would make life a little bit easier for you. That would be a great place to start, I think.
Okay, that sounds good. D versus D3. You see a lot of older adults, their physicians will recommend D3, but on your slide it said D.
And it's more that there's D2 and there's D3. D3 is better absorbed. So D3 would be the direction I would go. Like if I'm going to take a supplement, I may as well get the one that's best absorbed. I would do D3.
Okay. Well, during all of this, and I'll be asking you to look at your calendar for 2026. Which,
Sure.
yeah, I
Pick a
know.
topic that you guys would get fired up about that would really help.
Which part, what I asked the group is which part of her presentation would you like more in-depth information or clarification about what she talked about? Because there were quite a few things. Um, and I asked them that, and I'll be sending their comments. But one person asked, I'd like recommendation on books about menopause diet, and then uh, a foods a week chart, and I'll send you these.
Mhm.
Best protein shakes.
Mhm. I've got some over my shoulder, but it kind of depends on your taste buds and if you want it to be ready to go or powder. But yeah,
Okay.
I can answer all of those. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can send that because it's well, we still have a few more minutes, but on the screen, by the way, is a survey that's being provided by Caregiver Teleconnection. And it gives you a chance to give us, you, the listeners, a chance to evaluate your experience and also for any recommendations or anything you would like to see happen. So we still have a couple of more minutes. Do you want to talk a little bit about protein shakes, or you want to just leave that one out there, and then foods a week chart?
Well, and I don't know if you were talking about my fun little plants, my 30 plants,
And
which,
that came in actually before you showed us this.
oh,
So
okay.
let's distribute that first, and then
So foods in a week, you know what I would do is actually I would go to the Mind diet. And I mean, even there's, Mind Diet Simplified. There's like a Mind Diet 101, even just as an article you can read where they will have some boxes you can mark
mhm,
off.
mhm.
And so it's, kind of a one pager to say, oh yeah, I did these things. They have a great sort of weekly checklist, I think, that could be really helpful if that's what you were asking for.
Okay. Is there any books you're aware of as a menopause diet?
Yes. So believe it or not, she's sort of local. I do think that is it Mary Haver?
Spell the
Um,
last name?
Haver, Haver. Let me make sure I'm
Okay.
getting that right for you. And then there's one, it's called like M for menopause, but I'm gonna make sure I've got this. There are several that are good. And I mean,
Okay. So
National
you
Institute, National
can,
Institutes of Health, and we'll also have some stuff, but it's hang on.
okay.
Um,
And then one more in depth, someone said more in depth about the diets that were listed, the differences and the advantages, and a gluten-free diet. So
okay, and let me give you. I'm gonna
go ahead. No, go ahead.
the the one book, and she's also a Dallas author. Dr. Jessica Shepard, Generation M for Menopause, Generation M is an exceptional resource. She is an exceptional resource. The
Generation
Mary, the
M.
Dr. M,
Got it.
like, yeah, like M, like Mary, I guess.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Like Meridan.
And yeah, M like Meridan. There you go.
Uh-huh.
And Mary Haver, Dr. Mary Haver, her book and resource is called The Pause Life.
The pause life.
Life.
Got it.
Yes. Differences among, and I hope I didn't just miss a question, but you were asked about differences among the different diets that were the top 10 for US News.
And just, yeah, and the question was just like more in depth information. That was one of the suggestions for possibly something in the future. And
Sure. Yeah, I have a great topic. I love chatting about, it's like diet myths and misinformation. I really
ah,
love food as medicine
uh-huh.
as a topic. But in kind of what would be the most satisfying for you guys.
Mhm,
Again, maybe give Xanda some feedback and
mhm,
suggestions, and I
mhm,
would be happy to tailor a
mhm.
presentation where we kind of fuse some of that together
That
based
was
on
kind
your.
of the my aim here, and we may not be able to get that just into chat. So Minerva, who's our awesome coordinator in for teleconnection in San Antonio, I may. Um, how would you suggest we do something like that, Minerva? When you send the email with the PDF attached, could you send that some question that I put? And I don't mind if those email come directly back to me. That way you don't have to get caught up in it.
I can definitely do that. I can definitely add that to the additional resources email
Okay.
I send out.
Okay. We'll do it that way. And that way, any of those responses, give people some time to think about it. Because your presentation, there's almost any section that you could take and make an entire class out of. And I'm sure you find that. What a couple of things that I had made note, we have a website, and I am going to write down some of these resources for all of you. But we have a website and social media. And the
Yeah.
wellness wheel, I think everybody needs to be um, introduced to that.
I don't know. I love a good visual like that, and
Hmm.
I look at it frequently, and there's definitely
Visual.
chapters in my life where I've got aging parents, and it's obviously very stressful and heart-wrenching, and so parts of my well-being definitely had to take a back seat, but then I would look at it and it was just like, yes, you know what, let me take a beat on this or a minute on this, and it doesn't have to mean we get to take a vacation in Aruba, but it's like I can um do a couple of stretches. I may be able to close the door and do a few little mindful
That
meditation or something
that
like
was
that.
excellent. Just
Yeah.
few the 10 intentionality.
Intentional.
That was awesome.
Plus, who doesn't want to be a 10? We're all 10s. Let's do 10.
Exactly. Uh, in your browser, I'm still thank you very much for your time. You
My pleasure.
responded so quickly. I've never responded back and forth on LinkedIn with a speaker, but it worked quite efficiently.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just
And
like
thank you
I have
for
had to
for
remind myself, oh, I gotta check LinkedIn. But thank you so much for your time. We know just from your resume how busy you really are. So we are very, very grateful for all of the information you cited. And remember, everybody, not only will you get those slides, but we have recorded this session. It will be on the Caregiver Teleconnection site, and it also will be in on our website. And many of you get um, our emails or our electronic emails and look for it on social. Thank you so much. Have a great Monday.
take care.
Bye.